Hello, this is Vera Faria. It's a delight to be here with you today. So we are going to speak about Eros and Psyche myth, an individuation tale for the conscious feminine. So yes, today is in English, and I'm delighted because not only because we are close to Valentine's Day, the Day of Love, but also because I really love this myth. I use it a lot, and I could say that in my book, The Oracle of the Sacred Feminine, in one of the suits of the cards of the deck of cards that is the companion of this book, we have the Psyche and Eros suit and the cards. So the message of this card is to win all the challenges so that we can be love. And in that process, we can enjoy happiness. So it's the process of doing the feminine soul. I hope this book will be in English later this year. So today's in English, and we are going to start. So forgive me some eventual errors, but shall we start with the fairy tale? So bring your champagne, your green juice, or your tea or coffee, and just get comfortable and be ready for this wonderful, wonderful fairy tale. Well, better said, myth. Once upon a time, in a very faraway country, there was a very happy kingdom. It was ruled by a fair and benevolent king and queen. They were blessed with 3 beautiful daughters who became lovely young women, and princes started to claim them for getting married. All the other sisters, meanwhile, got married, but Psyche remained single. Well, she was the most beautiful of them all. And she was still single because no man would dare to court her. Her beauty was so enchanting that they started approaching her like a goddess. And people started to pilgrimage to the palace to adore Psyche, to adore the princess. Well, what happened is that they started neglecting Aphrodite, the goddess that we have here, the goddess of love herself. So they started to neglect the temple of Aphrodite, and she didn't like it, of course. Who likes being neglected? Not even the goddesses. I mean, she started to get jealous and furious with the mortal Psyche. Who she thinks she was? How she dared to be to gain all that adoration from people. So she cursed the lands, and the lands got barren, and so the crops start. Well, they stopped having crops, and famine started to haunt the kingdom. So crops ceased to grow. When a mere mortal usurps the place of a goddess, she always pays the price, really. We always pay the price. It's like Icarus that wanted to fly so high into the sun with his wings made of the material of the candles, you know what I mean? I cannot remember the word in English. And so that the wings, as you know, just melted down, and he fell and died. Of course, that is a terrible curse. We cannot forget that we are human, we are mortals, and we have frontiers, right? We have territories we should not dare to cross. So we must not identify with divinity, with the archetype. we have to honor our human condition, right? So being superhuman, which means totally perfect, was being like the gods, like the goddesses. Thus daring to go beyond human status and infringing the law. That was what it meant, even for Psyche. By this sin, our beloved Psyche was punished by Aphrodite's oracle that demanded that her to be given as a bride to a sea monster. It was the only way the land would flourish again, said the oracle. Of course, that the king had no other choice but to obey the oracle. It was a tradition in ancient times, so that the land would be fertile again and people could eat again and be happy again. So it was kind of a funeral walk for Aphrodite. I don't know if she was in white or in black. She could be in either color because she was a bride going to her funeral, right? She was a bride meeting her death in the monster's encounter. And maybe she wasn't yet ready to face the meaning of the creature from the depths. That sea monster that would come to ravish her. She was pure light, ethereal, perfect beauty, enabled to face her own shadow, and capable of facing and dealing and, of course, integrating her own shadow. That's why she could not be fully human, right? As long as one cannot acknowledge and integrate his or her own shadow contents, they remain unconsciously infrahuman, asleep to the human full identity and potential. We can also stay in the status of superhuman, possessed by an idealization or an archetype. Where? Here I would like to drive you into an unexpected detour. Why a sea monster? I asked myself, why a sea monster? Why not a dragon or a beast from the earth, from the land? We find the same motive in another myth that I also like very much, especially when I speak about leaving my father's house, so leaving the values of an old patriarchal civilization. We are still living in that transitional times, right? And leaving the place of the dead. I mean, the place where we do not belong anymore. And it is interesting for you to meditate on that. So in order to have a new life, where are the contents, the lifestyles that do not expand me, ignite my soul, my desire, my life energy anymore? So that is what I call the place of the dead, where we are. If we remain, we will be dying. So I remember that I remember here the other myth of Andromeda, a woman that became divine in the stars' firmament later in the myth. She was also chained in a sea rock and saved by an half-human, half-god Perseus hero that fell in love with her. So the sea is the unconscious, that the ancient called hell. With its monsters, and it is moved by the moon's tides. The moon rules the night, when the unconscious, our unconscious, is more active. So Psyche made unconscious wedding vows with the shadow monster, after all, prior to marry with the godly image of Eros' love. And it is interesting. It is so wonderful, so interesting, because as a priestess of goddess, I usually officiate weddings and celebrate weddings with our yes, I do Celtic weddings, and amazing, beautiful weddings and ceremonies. And I prepare the bride and the groom prior to the ceremony of the wedding ceremony. I prepare them to celebrate their wedding, their shadow vows. I mean, it is a beautiful, deep, transformative process, very intimate, just the three of us. And after a process where I also prepare and speak to them about their astrological synastries, the compatibilities, because it is, after all, in love, what it really means, what it really matters is not the chemistry, my dear. That is such an adolescent stage or phase of the process. It is about compatibility, you know, that it has the real power to promote intimacy. And so we do these shadow vows, like in the some indigenous cultures. Prior to the wedding ceremony, they would do some kind of ritual that would inflict pain, physical pain, into the bride and the groom, so that they could, symbolizing the suffering and the pain involved in getting married, in that path to build their own souls by the understanding and the knowledge of what love is. So it is extremely interesting. It's so beautiful. And then we had the Psyche making unconscious vows with the shadow monster. You know, that's the way. Anyway, that's the way things should be, I think, to have a chance to evolve into completion. And so when I was speaking about the shadow vows with the brides and the grooms before the wedding, they deepened their mutual compromise based on reinforced knowledge of their own respective shadows. It is a beautiful, honest moment that reinforces intimacy and prepares them better for the inevitable challenges they will face, of course. We all do. Returning to the myth, we can see that the beauty, Psyche, was not ready yet for the beast, the sea monster. In real life, sometimes we are ravished to dark abyss by our monster grooms. This is usual when the bride is a Psyche woman, a woman made of flowers, like in the Celtic myth Bloodwood, the woman made of flowers. So she was a perfect anima figure. She was just the woman that received the projection of the man. So she had no self-identity, so to say. So Psyche was the perfect woman, the still unravished bride, with her non-embodied feminine soul. This kind of woman, I warn you, attracts the demonic lover, the devilish lover, the monster shadow that will rape her soul. And it happens in real life. It can be the seemingly perfect husband, but with a perverse secret life. The absent workaholic, the narcissistic, the borderline, the psychopath, the so alienated soul, a person who is alienated from the soul as she is. So the perfect mirror, right? The only way to redemption is then through the painful descent into her own rejected darkness, projected into the lava. The more repressed the shadow, almost a reptilian figure symbolizing our most regressive urges and impulses that tend towards thanatos or death. And for me, this sea monster is that reptilian figure also. These women have to work deep in themselves, these anima women, these Pleiadia's women, in the beginning of the Celtic myth, Pleiadia, the woman, made the flowers. Then, after she passed through her trials of love, she died, and she was transformed in a whole, and a totem animal symbolizing wisdom, and she became that goddess that represents also passionate love, and wisdom, of course. But coming back to the myth again, these women have to work deep with themselves, learn how to become good mothers